Good afternoon, everyone. It is 4:02 on December 17th. We're going to call this meeting to order. First order of business, obviously, is to approve the minutes from last month. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mike, and then second with John. Thank you very much. Any discussion, corrections, comments? Fantastic. That motion passes. Third, actually, on the agenda is the chairman's report. A couple things, just two quick things that I want to mention. On December 11th of last week, I did send out, or I had Milena send out a memorandum of sorts, more of a punch card of facts. As a result of my thinking and working with our outside agency, I asked them to put together some talking points. Obviously, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to have thousands of visitors to Southern Connecticut. So I wanted to arm the board members with some current facts that you could utilize during any conversations that you may have with family, friends, or anyone in your network. Feel free to share that information. If you did not receive that email from Milena, let her know. But there's a lot of great information on that. Second point that I'd like to mention is last Friday, December 12th, Last Friday, December 12th, there was a discussion. There was the town of East Haven and Save the Sounds that filed a petition for review in the U.S. Court of Appeal for the District of Columbia, for the District of Columbia Circuit, challenging the FAA approval of the new terminal runway and taxiway. They had those oral arguments in D.C. Last Friday. We did ask our firm, our outside legal counsel, to put together a summary of those legal arguments. If you're interested in that summary, contact Milena and she'll send it out. But
They were sent out earlier
oh,
today.
did you send this out?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. All right, great. Well, it's in your inbox. So if you didn't have an opportunity to take a read through that, in conclusion, from the scope of our outside attorney, the court did not seem to seriously question the FAA's analysis of the project and did not raise any surprising issues. So it's about a page and a half read, but I wanted to get something out to the board that outlined, if you didn't have a chance to listen to those oral arguments, outlined what kind of the expectations, the summary of the appeal, and what the expected outcomes may be. And that's what you have in your inbox. So please take a look. With that, any questions or comments, any discussion?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah, Ray, go ahead.
So, I kind of lost it, but can you tell me again, what was your reasoning behind sending out your words postcard last week?
Yeah, it was just, with what I believe the large influx of visitors to Southern Connecticut coming into the airport, I wanted to just send out a punch card of facts. We've had our outside agency, or AFPorts has had their outside agency do a number of surveys over the last couple weeks, maybe even the past 2 months. And I compiled the results of that survey into that memorandum, and I sent that information out.
Okay, great. And like, would any of us directors be able to request things like that and do things like that also, or only your desk?
You mean survey results or specific questions?
Yeah, well, you had asked them to compile that, you said earlier, and then you wanted to send that out. I was just wondering if any of the directors could put something together to have sent out as well.
That went out to all the board members.
Yeah, but it went out to all the board members. I think Ray's asking.
Yeah, no, that's not my question.
Yeah, that's not his question. I think, if I'm understanding, you're asking if you want to request specific information from the outside agency, or do you want
Right.
to provide questions to the
Yeah, no, well,
agency for
so,
survey?
so you said you had asked to get that sent out.
Yeah.
Like, would there, and would any board of directors here be able to ask to have stuff sent out? That's my
I would
question.
say that, yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, Ray, I didn't mean to cut you off. I would think that request would come through the ED, through Tom's office or myself.
Okay, so you have the liberty, but no, okay, that's where I was going with that. Okay, thank you.
No, I don't want you to think that you cannot. I just think from a streamlining perspective, I think it's best to come through the executive director and or the chair.
Got it. Okay,
Be glad to work with you on any of your questions that you would like, anything that you'd like provided or answered from the agency. They're just obviously, they're familiar with Tom, they're familiar with myself because we work with them on a week in and week out basis. So I think, if you were as a director of the board to contact them directly, they may come back to Tom or myself and go, for clarity purposes, answer this. So I think it'd just be better for us to be clear on the questions and the requests coming from you and to have that flow through Tom or myself.
understood. Thanks for the explanation.
All right, no problem, Ray. Any other questions or comments? Discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the executive director's report. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first thing is we had an outstanding action item, which is being addressed through a resolution I'll discuss later on. It was an item that Mr. Scussel brought up, and I'll into that under resolutions. We're submitting an FAA grant application for what was previously known as bill money for 2025, and it's for previously programmed $4 million to construct the foundation and piles for the terminal building. We were notified last week of another, what's called NOFO, Notice of Funding Opportunity. It's the last round of money that's coming out under that program. And it's now called the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act program. There's a total of $1 billion for the entire country, but only $200 million for small hubs. The deadline for that application is January 15th, and we're working to get that in as soon as practical. We're going to be applying for that, and that will be also for the terminal project. Yesterday, we held the Environmental Stewardship Committee meeting. We discussed the noise monitor updates, air quality snapshots, residential indoor air program update, and some of the environmental advantages of the Velo's new aircraft they're going to be taking delivery of in 27, the E195. With regard to resolutions, there are two before you this evening. One, as I mentioned, is a replacement resolution. And that will be, it's replacing resolution 624. What it is Mr. Scussel had asked that we add some language to it. That was a resolution, you may recall, that allowed the executive director or chairman to execute a grant agreement with FAA if the timing if it happened before a board meeting could be held. In other words, if we were under a time crunch and they offered us $5 or $10 million under a grant agreement, we could sign it. Mark had asked that we forward a report within 24 hours to the entire board, though, because it would be ratified at the future board meeting. So that will be one of the resolutions before you this evening. And I'm out of order. I apologize. The first resolution, I believe, is for the ADK executive search firm. The committee has reviewed and recommended ADK. They used them in the past. It's a very, very similar situation, and if John wants to address that, that's fine. But we're bringing it back to the board because we need to use some contingency money to fund that. Again, very similar process to what was used when I was brought on board. So that's the second resolution. The statistics are in your packet. Sad to say, we dropped down to single digits. We only had 9% increase September over September. I say that jokingly because that's still a huge increase for any airport. Year to date, we're up 33%, and for the 12-month period, we had 721,233 enplanements. And this information, we're working to get all the statistics posted on the website. With that, conclude my report.
Thanks, Tom. Any questions for Tom? Discussion, any questions? Going once. Twice. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. All right. Airport manager's report.
Do you want to do the finance?
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Skipped over Serena. The finance report?
Oh, good afternoon, everybody. We have reviewed the financials for October, and Tom is going to give the full report. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Serena. Sorry about that, Tom.
Thank you, Serena. In the airfield account, the revenues for October, actual revenues excluding the lessee's subsidy of 410,187 came in at 94,591. The actual subsidy required was over budget by $90,078 for the month. Year-to-date actual revenues, excluding the $928,064 subsidies, were $395,936, or better than budgeted by $9,842. Expenses in the airfield were $504,779, which were over budget by $88,146. Year-to-date expenses in the airfield, $1,324,000 are below budget by $342,530. In the admin account, the revenues, total revenues for October were $60,664, which is under budget by $23,189. Year-to-date actual revenues were $265,635, which is under budget by $26,509. Expenses in the admin for the month were $46,605. Year-to-date actual expenses were $239,322, which is under budget by $96,406. Actual net results for the admin fund for October were positive $14,059, and year-to-date at this point is a positive $26,312. On the balance sheet, the fund balance at the end of this period is $383,267. Overall liabilities and fund balances are $1,815,916. That concludes the finance report.
Thanks. Thanks, Tom. Any questions, comments, suggestions on the finance report? Great. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Serena. All right. Mr. Nielsen, Airport Manager's Report.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two items to touch on for airside airport report. First is we just had our first major, well, call it major, impactful weather event. And that was, we had about 3 inches of snow here at Tweed. As it is every year, sometimes, getting that first storm under your belt is, a learning experience for some. So we did have the runway open the entire day. We did not lose the runway. We had good conditions. Avelo and Breeze, the air carriers have their own internal mechanisms for calculating, what they can accept for conditions. We did have some delays. Some of those delays were related to, active precipitation, as well as I think there was some equipment malfunction. So we did have some delays in the morning that had a cascading effect into the rest of the day, but there wasn't, we were prepared for impacts at the terminal, and the gate areas, traffic, but we didn't really see that. So we overall did a good job at managing that first storm. And we did hold a post-storm meeting with all the tenants, and that or discussed, got feedback and how we're gonna prepare for the next storm together. So overall, positive results for managing the storm, albeit there were some delays. And then secondly, we had, we've been, monitoring the runway as we've discussed in the past. The runway is approaching the end of its useful life. It has life left, but as it gets to this point, you start to see some deterioration of pavement. And there's one location that we've been paying particular attention to. And we made the decision last week that we had a window of opportunity to repair it before the winter season really set in. So we took advantage of that with a contractor that we awarded a bid with. And we removed 80 by 36 diameter, 6 feet diameter section of pavement, did a 3-inch mill and replacement of asphalt with a special mix that works in the cold conditions. It's not ideal to do it in cold, but we felt to get us through the holiday season and the winter season without a long disruption of service, we did close a runway for about 8 hours. And that was today, Wednesday. So that was yesterday, actually. It did impact one flight that moved their operation to Bradley. We did coordinate with them. And so now we're in good shape heading into the winter season. We don't anticipate any other sections of pavement to cause us any additional repairs till the springtime. So with that, happy to take any questions on that or on those two items or anything else that you have interest in.
Any questions for Jeremy? On the airport manager's report. What was the lifespan of that patch?
So the mix is, again, it's a special mix that's we could get more longer life than maybe we expect, but we anticipate replacing it with a spec that is more towards the spec that you would want on the runway in the springtime. But we'll monitor it, and if more than likely we'll be able to get some more useful life out of it. But I can't really give a specific time frame, but I think it's we do anticipate at some point replacing it with a more full depth repair, going down to the sub base, digging it out, and doing a more permanent repair.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Jeremy? Great, thanks, Jeremy. Seeing none, let's move on to the leasing report.
So as we head into the holiday travel period, obviously winter weather's a concern, but we're also focused on the uptick in the traveling public. We're going to get a lot of passengers and customers that don't fly on a regular basis. So we're gearing up for that. We did have a travel prep meeting with air carriers, TSA, and City of New Haven yesterday. And as a result of those meetings, we came up with, several additional measures that we'll be taking. New Haven Police, and Tom will probably speak to this a little bit more, but New Haven Police will be adding patrols to the neighborhoods, as will the airport be hiring an additional officer to assist with traffic, both inside the airport and at the entrances. During peak times. We've installed portable awnings at the entrance to the ticketing trailer. We're going to be installing some heat sources for outdoor waiting areas in the event that there's frigid temperatures. We don't anticipate having passengers wait outside in the weather. However, due to, we've added the third lane, so we've really seen a positive net effect of that. People are waiting most often less than 20 minutes in a line, but still we'll have some heating sources outside. Something new we tried actually during this last storm is we had Elite Limo. They're based, they might be in North Haven.
They are.
North Haven. We actually had them bring out a bus, a 40-passenger bus, and staged it in front of the departures terminal, just in case there was someone outdoors that needed a space to go. So the nice thing is they have the luggage compartments underneath, so a passenger can load their bag, go inside, sit, wait, if there was a delay, or there's, inclement weather. And then we've also coordinated with Hotel Marcel. We've been in conversation with them over the last couple of years, never pulled the trigger, but we did, this storm. We called them. They had capacity and were more than willing to accept passengers as a place for them to kind of go and relax if they, again, had an extended delay. So you really see the, people, the local businesses want to support the airport. I've got a great working relationship with them. And we appreciate them being open to working with us. So snow removal contractors are on standby as always. And then the last thing that we did in prep for the storm is we did a review of our airport emergency plan with New England PD and fire departments, just to focus on the terminal operations, just to make sure we're prepared for any type of event, just so it's fresh in our minds. With that, and then just a couple items I want to touch on, just improvements, small improvements in the terminal, always looking to improve the passenger experience. We've installed 2 Jabber boxes. They are mini self-contained conference rooms for one person. So they're sound insulated. They have a screen where you can plug in your laptop and conduct business, or just get away from the crowds, whatever you want to do. So that's we're pleased to have that up at Gate 1. So if you're traveling through, you want to check those out. We've added additional concessions to the bar area at Gate 1. And then we're also adding some additional supplemental heating to the breezeway with some heating curtains, just to help regulate the temperatures in the terminal. Because when you have a lot of crowds, the door's opening a lot. It tends to have the heating system has a hard time keeping up. So we hope that'll help mitigate that. And then one final note, I was asked to just make a note. There was some confusion on Avport's recently hired, I think, or is it on the authority? STV. Under Avport's. We hired STV as the project manager for the construction of the East Terminal. And there was some confusion on whether or not they were the construction firm, and they are not. So we're actually in the process of hiring a construction manager at risk who will be overseen by STV on that project. So just to clarify that point. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Jeremy?
Yeah, I do, Robert. I talked to
Ken.
Tom. Yeah, it's Ken. I talked to Tom during the week about the issue with the construction manager. I'm really confused about this, to be honest with you. I know I had a nice discussion with Tom. If the authority is charged with moving forward and making decisions on building the terminal, why didn't the board have an input, even vote on who the construction manager would be? I'm confused about that.
Ken, I'm sorry, I apologize. I thought it was going to be on this board meeting, but it wasn't ready. The agreement with the CMAR will come before the board next month. So it will be before the board as to, approving the contract with the CMAR.
All right, that was my major question.
That was my mistake. I apologize.
No problem. To me, it didn't seem right that if we're charged with building this terminal, making decisions about the terminal, et cetera, why wouldn't we have any input on the construction manager? That's my major point, but I appreciate you clarifying that for me. That's all.
All right, thanks, Ken. Any other questions for Jeremy? I have a question, Jeremy. Is there an update on the baggage belt project?
Right. So that project has been put on pause, primarily due to cost. It was probably 3 times higher than we expected that project to be.
So I'm sorry for the board.
Yes.
So can you just do maybe a quick summary
Sure.
and then update?
Sure. So the challenge with our current setup, the ticketing trailer is separate from the main terminal. So passengers have to go to the ticket counter, check in, get their bag tags, and then bring their bags into the lobby and drop them off at TSA. So our goal was to try to streamline that process and connect the ticketing trailer with the terminal with a, just call it we call it a doghouse, but like just a little walk, like what would be like the size of a walkway, a single walkway. It's probably, call it 15 feet long and 6 feet tall and 3 feet wide. So the goal was to come through the wall, and then the bags would be on a belt, be dropped off in front of the TSA screeners, where they would take the bag, put them through the CT-80s, and they go out on the gate area into the ramp. So with that, the cost with fire code and just mechanicals, the computer programming to that process, it became much more complicated than we had originally anticipated. So we, for the time being, we've been able to provide more customer service to support customers with their bags for those that need that support, as a way to help kind of still manage the need, but not have to have the capital outlay necessary to do that project, for the short period of time that it would be. If we were going to be here for 5-10 years, the investment made sense, but for the amount of time that we're going to be remaining here,
Yeah,
it just,
if I can,
Yeah.
the challenge with those type of belts is you have to put in all the bells and whistles, even if it's 6 feet long or
Yeah.
50 feet long. So you don't get, the cost is extremely high for a short belt. And as Jeremy said, just doesn't make, doesn't make sense.
put in perspective, you could probably buy a house for the price that.
Yeah, you could. I mean, it's several $100,000. But also I want to mention that I did observe your folks as well as police and others assisting passengers if they have to get in line, or they take their bags and they'll take them up to TSA. So they've jumped in and manually come up with, assistance. So.
Well, Bradley's been doing that for years. You have to, and up until
Yeah,
recently,
yeah,
you had to move your bag yourself.
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, and here it is a little more challenging. It's cozy, right? So it's not as much room to maneuver.
Mhm.
But we really try to manage or help the customer manage the process, and identify those people that need that extra hand. And again, it's a team environment. And Avelo works very well together with Apport's TSA collectively. And that's the way it works. Well,
Great. All right, any other comments or suggestions? All right, great. Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it. Community engagement, Tommy.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. Just to kind of kick off the update with a sort of note that this morning we had a really productive and meaningful presentation to the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce at their annual Economic Outlook Breakfast. So it was an opportunity for Mark Ricks, CEO of Apports, to provide an update on the project to the regional business community, which was very well received. And it's always encouraging to hear the support from the business community and around all the reasons and reasons for why the growth of air service, plays a pretty important role in regional economic development. And so appreciated. I've also seen several board members there, as well as a number of our, tenant companies here and partners out in the community as well. And then in line with business community economic development, we welcomed Dr. Al Green, the CEO of Quantum CT, here to the airport for a tour earlier this week, and to continue a conversation we had started a few weeks earlier at an announcement the governor had made to pledge $121 million to the quantum and biotech ecosystem here in the state. And it was a timely conversation because, again, the growth of this airport and air service connectivity plays a major role in the ability for our state to compete in these super competitive 21st century industry. So just always encouraging, again, to hear those reinforcements and the encouragement from the business community around these important topics. And then just moving into a follow-up update from Jeremy's on holiday travel. So want to express a deep gratitude and thank you to the New Haven Police Department and the city for their partnership and coordination during the Thanksgiving holiday travel period. So collectively, we all ramped up our security presence and posture, not just here on the airport, but also out in the community. In addition to our TSA officer, which we have here all the time, we have an extra duty officer. We hired a second extra duty officer on top of that for sort of 3 total across the airport, helping manage traffic both at the exterior entrance and exit. And the city also pledged an additional officer, which went and did patrols out in the community. And so collectively altogether was incredibly successful cooperation to make sure that we manage as effectively as we possibly can these higher volume of traffic periods. And so we did a couple of other additional, made a couple of additional efforts as well to try and manage that. One of those was the deployment of a variable messaging sign, so VMS, off at exit 50 to redirect traffic back across the highway to Temple Street Garage when all on-site parking is full. So one of the challenges is you have passengers who are coming here to the airport only to find out that parking is full, and then they have to go back up Townsend to Temple Street Garage. And so we're doing everything that we can to be as proactive as possible to deter that unnecessary traffic down Townsend Avenue. And so that was helpful in that regard as well. In addition to, the New Haven PD and the city traffic and parking, the city's traffic and parking department was also out during the Thanksgiving holiday travel period. So when traffic was high, we had our additional staffing, and then when traffic was low, traffic and parking would come in and ticket and tag all the errant vehicles parked in violation of any local rules. And we also had a tow truck deployed on standby, as well as just to serve as another deterrent for cars either idling or parked illegally in the neighborhood. And then, of course, we continue to push all of those messages out via the airlines and our own communications to passengers on what to do and not do, when traveling through Tweed. So all of that was very successful, and we're just going to continue and lean into that cooperation as we go into the December, January holiday travel period, which we are currently in now. A quick update on the residential indoor air program, or air purifiers. So as of the end of November, we had distributed a total of 350 air purifiers. So those are scent purifiers. We receive more applications, and then for every application for an eligible home we receive, we send back out a promotional code that resident can then go and use on allen.com to redeem their free air purifier. So there's going to be always a discrepancy between the number of applications and the number of redeemed. People may request a code, but not actually complete the order. And so the total number of completed orders is 350. We had set an initial deadline for the program as for the end of this month, so December 31st. We are going to extend that deadline by an additional 2 months, so the end of February, and send out an additional mailer in January to the remaining eligible homes to ensure as full participation as we can possibly get for the program. And we're also going to make some adjustments to the way we send out those letters. In the first mailer we had sent out, it went to the homeowner on file, and that homeowner may be an absentee landlord. They may live somewhere else, right? And that's a rental property. And so it may go elsewhere or to some LLC in a PO box. So instead, what we're going to do is send all of these letters, which will go to the remaining eligible homes, directly to the address. So even if it's a tenant or resident, whatever it is, they'll receive that mailer directly to their inbox. So again, this is just a way to try and break through and get as direct of a mailer as we possibly can to these residents. And then lastly, just wanted to provide an update. We had discussed earlier this year, particularly when we had our annual community meeting for Ward 18, around a series of public meetings that we'll have related to the deep application permit process. And so right now we have planned for the end of January, our first meeting, which will essentially serve as an introductory overview of the deep application process. So what is it? What are the elements of the application? What does it cover? What is it really looking at? and we'll have our experts there to walk the community through that process. So it's sort of elements of the project, the key pieces of the application itself, and then just a general overview of how it all works. And so again, our experts will be there to provide that technical expertise, but again, it'll just serve as a kind of educational transparency, public awareness around that, and it will be hosted at East Haven High School. So our first meeting, again, will be targeted for the end of January. I'll post more information about that meeting in the coming weeks, but just wanted to share that update now before the holidays fast approach and our next board meeting in January.
All right, so you're anticipating the meeting occurring after our January meeting?
Correct.
Okay.
So we'll provide another update at that one as well. And then, of course, in the meantime, we'll put this out on social media, our newsletters and all the appropriate channels to make sure everybody's aware. But other than that, I hope everybody have a very happy holiday and safe travels.
Any questions for Tom, comments?
I just have one question.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Mike.
Regarding the sign directing people to the Temple Street Garage, I travel from 91 to the exit, and the sign is at the bottom of the exit, advising them that if the garages are full, to use the Temple Street Garage. Is there a possibility of improving that and having that sign at an exit that's going to get them to the proper exit to the Temple Street Garage instead of getting up here and then going across the highway to get back down?
Yeah, it's a great question, and definitely something that we're going to look at how long-term we can, again, this is part of being proactive, right? So moving as far out from the actual airport itself as we possibly can go to deter traffic or unnecessary traffic. And so this is the first time we had done something like that. And so we'll continue to tweak and adjust and improve to make it as effective as possible.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions for Tom? All right, great. Seeing none, move on to reports and action items. First is resolution 629. The quick resolution, let me read it. The authorization to engage an executive search firm dated December 17th, 2025. These resolutions are in your packet. It is, whereas the chairman of the board duly authorized has appointed 7 members of an executive search firm to establish a procedure for searching for an executive director to replace Tom Rafter, who has announced his desire to retire early next year. The members appointed to said committee by the chair of the board are John Picard, Linda Hennessy, Serena Neil Sanjuro, Brett Simon, Matt Hoey, Peter Lindari, and Tom Rafter. And whereas the chair of the board duly authorized, appointed the vice chair of the board, John Picard, as chair of said committee. And whereas at the direction of Chairman Picard, the said committee met several times in the past 2 months to discuss the most expeditious manner for locating potential candidates for the executive director position, interviewing and selecting a replacement. And whereas the said committee decided that the assistance of an executive search firm is important to reaching the widest audience of potential candidates, has solicited proposals from several such firms and consulted with aviation consultants about available search firms. And whereas ADK Consulting and Executive Search Company, ADK, a well-known executive search firm specializing in hiring airport executives, was chosen based on qualifications and a fee structure which will allow the committee to handle many of the functions such as interviewing normally performed by search firms. And whereas the fixed fee proposal requires an appropriation of $29,660 plus reasonable build costs from the authority's contingency fund, which account has sufficient funds available for the expense. Now, therefore, be it resolved that between New Haven Airport Authority approves the hiring of ADK with a budget of $29,660 plus reasonable costs to perform the services required by the Executive Search Committee, authorizes drafting of an engagement agreement to be reviewed by counsel for the authority, and authorize the chair or vice chair of the board to execute said agreement and provide progress reports to the board at subsequent board meetings. So is there first thing, is there a motion to move this resolution?
So moved. So
On, who was online?
that's me, Mr. Chair,
Okay, so moved by
John Picard.
John Picard. Is there a second? Okay, Mike is second. Now, let me reread the motion. So this, again, this is resolution 629, authorization to engage an executive search firm, dated December 17th, 2025. Discussion. Discussion, questions for the chairman of the subcommittee, John Picard.
What, I know Mark sent in a couple questions on this one. I thought Tom had mentioned they were going to go over this.
Yeah, very happy to, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So, yeah, I
You
saw
got a
Mark.
copy of those, John?
Yeah, I saw him before. I could look again, but basically it was how many search firms do we engage? I believe was his question, but I could look at it. I looked at
Yeah,
it
he
briefly
got,
at work.
yeah, so
Right.
he's got one here. How many and which search firms were solicited? What qualifications were compared across the various search firms? And what are the reasonable build cost of their value? So that was from
From Mark.
Member Russell.
Got it. So let me say this. We met. I'm going to give you a half a minute background. We've been meeting every 2 weeks since the chair put this committee together, with Tom, with Brett, and going down the list. We understand that Tom would like to retire. So to answer the question, we informally checked on with Brett and Tom several other search firms. We first decided that we were going to need a search firm to help us early on in the process. The reason we went with ADK, and I'll tell you, we've used them before. They were very good. We were very happy with the results. And I'm not speaking just for myself. I think the search committee was exactly the same as it was when we hired Tom. I'm talking about Linda, Peter, myself, Matt, and Serena. And very happy with the service they provided, with the costs that were encumbered, and the results of the search firm. The difference with this one is, obviously, last time we know we needed someone, but we didn't have the clock ticking as Tom's retiring. But we also have Tom and Melina here to help also. So we're happy with the cost of the engagement of $29,000 plus reasonable reimbursements for expenditures. So that's why this is a specialized service. I'll answer, Ray, the board, and Mark. And the last thing we wanted to do is to take more time to potentially interview half a dozen other firms and come back to the same result that we have ADK. We like ADK, and they've proven it to us in the past that they're very good at what they do.
Ray?
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Like I said, I wanted to reiterate those for Mark. Thanks for jumping on them. If he has any follow-up, I'm sure he can just email, whatever.
Yeah,
That'd be
Mark
fine.
could call me too. We haven't done. I know Mark. So no problem, right? I should have jumped in there earlier when Tom asked. I wasn't sure if we should wait till now.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Any additional questions regarding this resolution for Subcommittee Chair John Picard? Seeing none, I ask for all in favor. Raise your hand or
Aye.
signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Okay, the majority has it. That resolution is adopted. Moving on to.
Yeah, one quick question. How long they say the process will take?
John, what's anticipated timeline on the process?
Yeah, before Tom, I'm going to be semi-facetious here, before Tom Rafter leaves, but that was the reason we had to get them on board. It's going to probably take about, by the time they get engaged, which hopefully, will happen very soon now, you're probably looking at minimum of 90 days to get people here and to start the interview process.
The goal is to have a candidate identified, selected on board by the June-July timeframe.
That's
And
the
then-
goal.
And then I'll do 3 months at like half time working with them to bring it to speed.
Thank you.
So we're hoping to have candidates in April, hoping.
Right.
And just for the board, for your knowledge, in next board meeting in January, the executive director and myself have had some discussions about just laying out a more of a comprehensive timetable on what his part-time will look like. How many days will he be in Connecticut? How many days will he be in Florida? He still will be available, through any type of communication, but we want the board to be visible. Obviously, the authority needs a presence here at the airport, right? So we're working through what that timeline is going to look like. But if Tom's in Florida, obviously Milena will be here, or myself will be available, et cetera. But we'll have more of a concrete review, so to speak, of that to present to the board in January. All right, moving on to Resolution 630, amending and superseding Resolution 624, granting limited blanket permission for federal execution of federal grant agreements dated December 17th, 2025. So whereas the authority is responsible for filing of applications to the Federal Aviation Administration for Airport Infrastructure Grants in accordance with federal statutes, and whereas said applications are approved by the Board of Directors prior to filing with the FAA, and whereas the FAA awards grants by sending grant agreements to the authority to be executed by the authority in accordance with the authority's legal requirements, and whereas the authority procedure requires Board of Directors approval of grant funds received by any appropriation of authority funds that may be required for a local match prior to execution of any grant agreement by the chair of the Board of Directors or the execution. And whereas FAA grants generally require a local match that is covered by PFCs or the New Haven LLC lease, but on occasion do not require a local match. Whereas FAA grant assurances provide that a sponsor such as the authority has legal authority to apply for grants and carry out the project for which the grant application was made. And whereas deadlines imposed by the FAA for execution of said grant agreements occasionally make timely Board of Directors approval problematic and may result in lost opportunities for grants. And whereas the Board of Directors desires to amend Resolution 624 to provide additional oversight and notification to board members when timing constraints preclude advanced board approval. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Directors hereby amends and supersedes Resolution 624 and grants permission to the chair of the Board of Directors and or the executive director to sign FAA grant agreements without Board of Directors approval when said grant agreements have an FAA imposed deadline that predates the next board meeting, provided one, said chair and or executive director provides written notice to all board members by reasonable means within 24 hours of receipt of grant notifications from the FAA for any comments by board members, and two, said chair and the executive director have a written commitment from the New Haven LLC to provide the funding for any local match that may be required, and three, the Board of Directors acts at its next meeting to ratify the action taken by the said chair and executive director. The action taken by the said chair and executive director pursuant to this resolution shall have the same force and effect as actions by the Board of Directors. May I have a motion to move this item? Dave, second?
Second.
Kevin Rosho, got a second? Kevin? Okay, so let me reread the motion again. Is Resolution 630 amending and superseding Resolution 624 granting limited blanket permission for federal execution of federal grant agreements dated December 17th, 2025. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, I ask for your vote. All in favor of this resolution, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. This motion passes and it is adopted. Thank you very much for your time on that. Any other business? Other business? Seeing none, let's open it up. Felipe. Public comment. Hi, Laura. Is it Laura Khan? Hi, Laura.
Yes,
State your
hi.
name. Hi, state your name and address, please.
Laura Kahn, 54 Cleveland Road, New Haven. Thank you for hearing me. I wish to mark the passing of New York City's Arlene Bronzaft, a longtime advocate for quiet. Dr. Bronzaft, a professor of environmental psychology, studied effects of noise on heart health, mental health, sleep, and learning. Tweed New Haven Airport is a major contributor to noise in New Haven. I hope you are working on minimizing the noise. A good start would be installation of noise cameras like those that have been installed in New York City to monitor the decibel level from airport and aircraft activity. Also, I note that on December 5th, a study published in the year 2000 was retracted. This seminal study, published in the scientific journal Regulatory Toxicology and Pharmacology, concluded that glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, did not pose a cancer risk to humans. In retracting the study, the co-editor-in-chief of the journal wrote, Monsanto employees may have contributed to the writing of the article without proper acknowledgement as co-authors. The study's authors may have been paid by Monsanto without disclosing it, and the findings about its cancer risk are solely based on unpublished studies from Monsanto. As you may know, glyphosate has been applied liberally on green spaces at Tweed New Haven Airport for decades, in spite of pleas of neighbors and anti-pesticide advocates for use of less toxic methods for weed control. I hope we can fix that as soon as possible. Thank you so much and happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Hi, Lisa Brandis. State your name and address, please, for the record.
Lisa Brandis, 162 Willard Street, New Haven, Connecticut. I was pleased to hear about the approaching construction, and so I went in and dug into the 60% design review documents that I could find. I had some questions about the expectations for transit. For example, on page 8, facility sizing, the arrival and departure passenger assumptions were based on private cars and taxis, and there was no assumption that anyone would use public transit, which seemed very odd to me. And so I wonder if you could review those and say what your expectations are for who might use public transit, given the needs of the people of Greater New Haven, whether it's a bus or a shuttle from a train station or Connecticut Transit itself. I do not see in the design pictures or renderings places for public transit users to be dropped off. Maybe they're just not pointed out, but they were not clear. So it would be very helpful to think of this again as transit-oriented development and thinking about places that have transit and transportation centers like at BDL or other successful airports, which have strong links to transit, whether it's a link to a rail line through a bus or a shuttle bus. Even Westchester Airport, which is a similar kind and size of airport, has that successful long-term airports, if you're planning for this to be a long-term successful airport, do have transit linkages. And the last thing I'll ask is about the advertised 4,000 parking spots, which seems like a lot. I'm sure they will get used. But my question was whether you could consider solar canopies to generate electricity over those many, many parking spots. on if that's not something from an environmental standpoint, from an energy and cost saving standpoint, again, going for the long term, whether thinking about that for all of these ground parking spaces that you're going to have couldn't be something that, again, could make Tweed greener, more successful, and a more sustainable economically and environmentally in the long term. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Have a happy holiday. Michael G., name and address, please. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Michael Giordano down in Juno Beach, Florida. Like many of us Tweed followers and fans, we were pleased to read some of that updated news last week regarding the timetable of the projects that we're anxiously awaiting. One thing that doesn't get discussed from the at the meetings from the Tweed side of things is the Hemingway Avenue situation regarding flooding in East Haven. Now we know that's been discussed at these meetings before, usually by public comment, and usually in a negative way. And it's not obviously Tweed's responsibility to make any necessary improvements to prevent flooding as best they can. But I'm just concerned that is there enough pressure from our Tweed people with the state of Connecticut and the town of East Haven to come together with a plan? I mean, this should have been done a long time ago. Forget the airport's plans. It's a safety issue, as my brother has mentioned in public meetings before in southern East Haven and the Morgan Point area. So it should be repaired regardless. But my concern is down the road when we have a new terminal and everything is going well and we have our first flood, it's gonna make national headlines, and we don't want to be in the national news with a brand new terminal, but passengers can't get there because there was a major storm, so I just hope that we're doing everything we can to get the state to improve. It should be done actually before the airport's terminal is finished, in my opinion, but if we could get some information, maybe the next meeting, what is being done from the airport side of things or the city of New Haven to try to get East Haven and the state of Connecticut to make these much needed improvements. Have a very happy holiday season, folks, and let's hope 2026 is better than 25 was. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Bennett, good afternoon. State your name and address, please, for the record.
Good afternoon, Catherine Bennett. I live on Thompson Avenue in East Haven. And it looks like, again, you have created a dangerous situation on this holiday season by overscheduling flights. The traffic backups that are occurring would make it impossible for emergency vehicles to come through to the airport or even to the people on the street who live in those houses. Second, in addition to the tents and a heater, which are certainly a good idea, there should be porta potties. In my walks past Tweed, I have witnessed water bottles and bags that have obviously been used for emergency bathroom situations. Third, I'd like to bring up another dangerous situation that I've witnessed on Hemingway Avenue. It looks like you're parking large fuel trucks in back of where there's that new construction and a small Mexican restaurant. It looks like a small lot. It's very close to houses back there. And the trucks, and I've witnessed this, they have to stop the traffic on both sides of Hemingway Avenue to make a turn into that very small area. I'd like to know if those fuel trucks are full because they're very close to houses and businesses. My next concern is the de-icing fluid. Again, you have a very antiquated system there at Tweed. Scientific studies have been done that show that the de-icing fluid has toxins in it. It's very bad for wildlife and humans. I hope those people wearing masks when they're spraying it all over the plains. You are only required to recover 60% of the fluid and then just adjust it for pH. We know that de-icing fluid, the glycol, creates low oxygen situations in water. And of course, we have our streams there, and which can be lethal to the wildlife that live in the streams. Thank you, and thank you for hearing me out.
Have a good holiday, Catherine.
You too.
Lorena, good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Lorena Venegas, and I live at 73 George Street in East Haven. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks. So I want to make sure I do a statement for the public record that Tweed Airport, Avports, and Tweed Airport Authority have failed to submit the permit application to the Connecticut Department of Energy and the Environment. You have received a notice of insufficiency for not following the process. And you have submitted something that has a lot of omissions and a lot of gaslighting for the residents who didn't even get a chance to even partake in any of this process. There is a problem with the air purifier list in that you didn't give it to our state rep, Joseph Zullo, and it wasn't obtained through the Freedom of Information request. And that's a very easy thing to do. And we're going to ask some reporters to get it for us because it's vital. If you have already identified a subclass for a class action lawsuit for homeowners who are being polluted on, and they deserve their day in court, they deserve their air purifier, they deserve whatever they need. In terms of the noise data that's been presented over the last several months, there's been no plan of action for everything going over 100 decibels that impairs health and ecology. As a reader and a very strong person in terms of reading financial statements, I have debunked that UConn study that you did. And, it's really obnoxious that you're spending a lot of money on things and you're not spending in the community. Right now, this project is projected to cost over $585 million. And for every day that goes past, you're not going to be able to attain that money. And you haven't explained it to the town of East Haven in terms of how a local municipality is on the hook for that percentage that the FAA needs or wants. It's really, I think it's really terrible that we have CEOs like Mark Riggs and Robert Reed and Teresa Matamoros and Arturo Garcia and Matt Shelby and Michael Jones who are really gaslighting our towns and not being fair with the process at all. The only other thing I want to make sure that we get on the record is that we have had no public meetings in East Haven. You promised this for over 2 years now. And the environmental assessment, as the court needs to read it, the federal level, there's a lot of missing and a lot of unconstrued information. I mean, we know that the 737, 800 shouldn't be on our runway. The Boeing manufacturer indication specifications indicate the runway is too short and we only have one runway. And no matter what terminal you build, it's still one runway. Thanks.
Thank you, Lorena. Hi, Tony's Pad. Good afternoon.
Hi, Tony Laurenti. Good afternoon, everyone. Briar Lane, Meriden, Connecticut. Airline Pilots Association. Key West, their runway's 4,800 feet. heavily served by 737 aircraft, and similar. We must file legal action. Wrong runway, wrong airplanes. The previous caller, that's at least a year plus with that nonsense. I'm a pilot. My perspective is credentialed. That's misinforming the public. Moving on, regarding the December 12th meeting, my opinion is as follows. The petitioners never spoke about the key and primary and most impactful components of HVN's improvement, that being the terminal and runway. They spoke only about concepts such as independent utility related to taxiway alpha, segmentation with regard to taxiway alpha. They skillfully dropped ground operational issues without the full scope of taxiway and runway separation, namely 275 feet versus 400 feet, and how the FAA modifies and adjusts design standards for a myriad of reasons well beyond a 3-minute conversation. Their effort was to frighten the public. The timeline of 5, 10, 20 years, and what if Tweed does this, and what if Tweed that, was their primary contention. The only thing they didn't project was that Tweed would become a base for supersonic fighters. East Haven and Save Our Sound monopolized the public's time with their prejudice, and East Haven residents funded it. They spoke nothing about the airport and its major projects at hand. They diverted the attention with projects that have been ongoing and are not related to, again, the major projects at hand. It is my hope that the petition is denied. My opinion from listening to the hearing was that will be where it goes. I hope I did not jinx, certainly not influence the outcome. But again, they diverted, never speaking about the actual projects of greatest concern to residents and to the community.
30 seconds left.
And for everyone's well-being, de-icing fluid sprayed on airplanes with people in them. I'll leave it at that. It's propylene glycol, 50% water. Skillfully leaving out information is deceitful to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
The Schaefer's project, Starbucks get canceled too across the bay. They're doing one where Sally's is beauty. Schaefer and Starbucks, they were doing one over there. Are they doing it still or not? Those are big ones.
Okay, well done, Felipe. So prior to entertaining a motion to adjourn, I just want from the authorities' perspective to wish everyone's family and yourself, if you're traveling, be safe. Wish your family happy holiday, happy Hanukkah. And we'll see you guys, see everyone in January. And with that said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Dave, second by Mike. Everyone have a great holiday. Travel safe. Thank you very much.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
So when's the house gonna